Hello guys, welcome back again to another tutorial. Welcome back again to my channel. My name is Dorothy. In today's video I'll be sharing with you how to cut an off-shoulder top with a front zipper. One thing I love about this top or Ankara top is that you can pair them with either trouser or with skirts. This particular top has a skirt, so you can rock it as a two-piece or with another color of skirt or trouser. So if this is something you're interested in, please watch this video to the very end and do not forget to subscribe if you haven't, and also do not forget to give this video a thumbs up as soon as you finish watching this video. No, please give this video a thumbs up right now before you forget. Without further ado, let's get started with the video. I'm using this beautiful Ankara print for this tutorial, and what I have with me here is 2.5 yards. I practically use this material to make the top and also the skirt. I literally managed this material when I was working on the sleeve. If you're on a bigger size, then you need to increase the yardage of your material. So let's go ahead and cut out portion that we'll be using to draft the front pieces. So guys, this is what I have after I was done cutting the portion that will be needing for the front top. On this center front right here, I will mark 2 inches for the zipper allowance. From the thumbnail, you can see that the zipper was in the front, so we have to mark the zipper allowance first, and I'm going to mark this from top to bottom. Then I will use my ruler to connect all those points that I have marked together on a straight line. So go ahead and do the same thing. Mark your zipper allowance. You can make do with 1.5 inches to 2 inches as your zipper allowance. On this straight line here, that's where we'll be taking our body's measurement from. Okay, the next thing we are going to do is to mark the vertical line. So I'll be placing my measuring tape like this, and I'll be minusing 5 inches from the tape rule, just the way you see. I'm removing these 5 inches because it's an off-shoulder dress and I am trying to manage the fabric. So leaving the measuring tape like this, I come down by 10 inches for my bust length measurement and I mark that. Also, I'll be taking my under bust measurement, which is 13.5, and I mark that. Still leaving the measuring tape like this, I came down by 16 inches for the waist length measurement and I marked it. As for the length of the top, the total length of this top that I am working with is 20 inches and I marked that. Then I added 1 inch for the hemming allowance. Now I am going to use my straight ruler to connect all these points that I have marked horizontally. So here is the bust point line, the under bust point line, the waistline, and the length of the top. On this start line right here, I will mark 5 inches. When taking your measurement, make sure that it's on the zipper line, that is before the zipper allowance itself. So I mark 5 inches right here on the start line. Then here on the bust point, I'm going to divide the nipple to nipple measurement that I am working with by 2, and I will add 1/2 inch to it. So the nipple to nipple measurement that I am working with is 7. 7 divided by 2 is 3.5. Then I added 1/2 inch sewing allowance, making it 4 inches, and I mark that on the bust point. Now here on the underbust, I'm going to maintain the half of my nipple to nipple measurement, which is 3.5, and I mark it here on the underbust. Then on the waistline, I'll mark the same 3.5 inches there, and also on the length of the dress, I'm going to mark 3.5 as well. Now I will use my straight ruler to connect all these points that I have marked just like this. To take the dart, here on the under bust point line, I will come out by 1.5 inches and I'll mark it. Then on the waistline, I'll mark the same 1.5 inches as well, and also on the length of the top, I will mark 1.5 inches. After that, I'm going to use my ruler to connect the points that I have marked on a straight line. Now to get the shape of the bust, I'm going to make a curve from this under bust point to the bust point, just the way you see me doing. Just make a C kind of shape just like this. Now you can see that the bust shape is forming. To properly blend this so that the bust form will come out very well, here on the start line where the dart line is, I'll go out by 2 inches. Then I'll connect this curve line from the bust point all the way to this point that I marked 2 inches on the start line. Now you can see that the bust shape is out. Let me just blend this line properly so you can see it very well. Now I am going to cut out the length and also the darts that I have marked out so that we can take the remaining body measurements. So just watch how I am cutting it. I first of all remove the length so that I will have a smaller portion to work with. Then I went ahead to cut the dart on the center front just the way you see me doing. Then I'll go ahead ahead and cut the one on the side front. So this is how you just basically cut out the dart. So this is what it looks like after cutting out the dart. So the next thing is I will use the center front to cover up the bust curve on the side front, just like this. Now let's mark the body measurement. Here on the start line, I will divide my shoulder measurement into 2 and I'll mark it. The shoulder measurement I am working with is 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8. Then I marked it. Guys, make sure that your measurement is taken on that zipper allowance. That is before the zipper allowance itself, okay? After taking half of my shoulder measurement, here on the bust point, I will divide my bust circumference by 4 and I'll mark it. The bust circumference I am working with is 34. 34 divided by 4 is 8.5. Then I added 2 inches sewing allowance to it. On the waistline, I will do the same thing. I will divide the waist circumference by 4 and I'll mark it. The waist circumference that I am working with is 28. 28 divided by 4 is 7 inches. So I mark 7 inches here on the waistline. Then I add 2 inches sewing allowance to it and I mark it. Then here on the length of the top, I will add 1 inch to what I mark on the waist measurement. Then mark it here on the length of the dress. I don't want this to be too fitted, so if you want yours very fitted, you can just maintain the waistline measurement here. After marking that, I'm going to add 2 inches for the sewing allowance. Now I will use my freehand to connect all those points that I have marked to form the body shape. After marking all those points together, the next thing we are going to do is to create the armhole. So here on the bust point line, I'm going to go up by 2 inches and I'll make a mark there. Now I will use my chalk to extend the line on the bust point all the way to meet the 2 inches that I came up by. Then I went ahead to create the armhole curve from this 2 inches point all the way to meet the shoulder point measurement, just like this. We are basically done drafting the front piece. Now let's go ahead and cut this out. So this is what we have after we are done cutting the front pieces. So the next thing we are going to be working on is the neckline. So from the start line, I'm going to be placing my measuring tape like this and I will come down by 2 inches for the neck depth. And the type of neckline that I will be working with is a sweetheart neckline, so feel free to make use of any neckline of your choice. Now I will use my curve ruler to create the sweetheart neckline just the way you see me doing. Now I will use my scissors to cut out the neckline and I will also open up the zipper allowance just like this. After opening up the zipper allowance, the next thing I'm going to do is to fold the zipper allowance like this. Then I will notch it, and I will also do the same thing to the down part of the zipper allowance. I will simply fold this zipper allowance like this, then I will notch it. We are basically done drafting the front pieces, so the next thing we are going to do is to work on the back pieces. I will keep these front pieces aside, then I will fold and cut out the portion that we'll be using to draft our back pieces, that is from the larger fabric, okay? So guys, I am done folding the pieces that we'll be using to draft the back pattern. So the next thing I'm going to do on this folded fabric, I will bring the center front like this and I will place this on the fabric that we folded for the back pieces. So guys, when placing the center front, make sure you fold in the zipper allowance because there is no need for zipper at the back since we already have zipper at the front. So just fold in the zipper allowance like this, then I will use my scissors to cut the dart for the center back, okay? So guys, just watch how I am cutting out the dart for the center back. When cutting out the dart for the back pieces, make sure you leave 1/4 inch, that is 0.25 inch for the sewing allowance, okay? And again, this is just one way of drafting the back pattern because I want my back pattern to have the same 3 pieces as the front have, okay? In case you don't like this method, you can try out other method that you are comfortable with. And also I have a video on how to draft an off-shoulder bustier, which is totally different from this one, so I will leave the link of the video in the description box, so just check it out. So after cutting out the length of the pattern, I'm going to take out the remaining pieces. Then I will place the side front on top of the center front like this. Make sure that the bust curve is sitting or overlaying the center front properly, okay? And this is because we don't have bust at the back. After laying this properly, I'm just going to use my scissors to cut out the side back just the way you see me doing. We are done drafting the back pieces. The next thing we are going to do is to remove the front piece from the back piece so we can work on the neckline. Now you can decide the kind of neckline you want for the back. For me, I want a round neckline. So from the armhole right there, I went on to trace out the round neckline on my back pieces just like this. Then I went ahead to cut it out. So guys, we are basically done drafting the front and the back pieces for this off-shoulder bustier top. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to cut lining piece for each of these pieces. So gum stays to each of these pieces, then also we are going to go ahead and sew. I will be using this paper gum on each of the pieces. That is, I will be ironing the paper gum on each of the pieces. Now for the bust curve, I'm going to use this thicker gum stay. They call it wording here to pad the bust area. So let me go and iron this on my pieces and bring it so that you see what we have. So guys, this is what I have after I was done ironing the gum stay or the paper gum on each of those pieces. And as for the front pieces, I ironed the wording on the bust curve area so that when we are done sewing this, the bust curve will come out looking really nice and gives the bust curve a kind of nice looking shape. And I also did the same thing to the lining pieces as well. It's just that for the lining pieces, I just use only gum stay for each of the pieces. Now I am going to keep the lining pieces aside while we work on the main fabric. Let me also take away the back pieces. So now I will be placing the side front on top of the center front just the way you see me doing. And as you can see, each of the side front has its own center front, and this is because of the zipper allowance with slits at the center front. So go ahead and do the same thing. Place your center front on the side front, then use pin to hold it together just the way you see me doing. After using office pin to pin around the bust area of the space, this is what it's going to look like when I'm done sewing it. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing to the second piece as well. I will simply place the side front on the center front, then I will head over to the sewing machine to sew the dart. And as for the back pieces, I am going to do the same thing as well. I will simply place the side back on top of the center back just the way you see me doing, and I will also place the second side back on top of the center back just like this. Then I'll head over to the sewing machine to sew the dart area. For the lining pieces, I'm going to do the same thing as well, just as I explained for the main fabric. So guys, this is what I have after I was on sewing the dart on the front pieces. Now I'm going to use my scissors to notch around the curve area so that when I take this to the ironing table and iron it, it will stay flat. Then I'm going to do the same thing to the second pieces as well. I'll simply notch the curve area and also iron it. Likewise, the lining pieces, I'm just going to do the same thing as well. After notching all the pieces, I'm going to open the same side just the way you see me doing, and I'll iron it flat, and I'll do the same thing for all the pieces including the lining. For the back pieces, I've already gone ahead to sew the dart area as you can see, and I'm going to notch this. This is not actually necessary, but for it to stay flat, I'm just going to notch it, then I will iron it as well, and I'll do the same thing to the lining pieces as well. This is what I have after I was done ironing the darts on the front pieces, and while I was sewing I had excess at the side front. So the next I'm going to do is to use my scissors to trim out the excesses, and I'm going to do the same thing to the lining piece as well. So go ahead and trim out all the excesses you might have had if you have any. After cutting out the excesses, I'm just going to use my scissors to recut the armhole. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is to fix the zipper, and I already notched the zipper allowance. Okay, so I'll simply place my zipper like this. Then at the length here, I left half an inch spacing so that I can turn the fabric with the lining. Fixing your zipper like this before joining the lining will give the work a much neater finishing. So let me go and fix the zipper and bring it so that you see what we have. This is what I have after I was done fixing the zipper. You can see how neat this looks. So the next thing I'm going to do is to separate these two pieces like this so that we can join the lining to each of the piece. And here is a lining that I'll be using to turn the main fabric, and I've gone ahead to sew the dart. After sewing the dart, the next thing I did was to top stitch on it, and that's the stitch line that I'm showing you right here. And I did the same thing to the second lining pieces as well. After sewing the dart, I went ahead to make a top stitch on it so that it can stay in place. So the next thing we are going to do is to place the lining piece on the main fabric like this, right side facing each other. Make sure that you arrange the edges properly just the way you see me doing. Now I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch this side, then I'm going to stitch the zipper side, and make sure that the zipper stitch is close to the main stitch on the main fabric. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Then sew the both side and also the length of the piece. After sewing all the side, the neckline and the both side and also the length of the pieces. I will now use the armhole to turn this to the right side. So let me go and do this and bring it so that you see what we have. And I'm going to do the same thing to the second pieces as well. I'll simply place the lining on top of the main fabric, right side facing each other. Then I'll head over to the sewing machine to sew the neckline, the both side, and also the hemline. Okay, the allowance to turn to the right side will now be the armhole. Then for the back pieces, I'm going to place my main fabric and the lining together, right side facing each other. Then I will head over to the sewing machine to sew the neckline, the both side, and also the length of the pieces. So guys, this is what I have after I was done sewing the lining to the main fabric. So the next thing I'm going to do is to trim the excess zipper, and I'll do the same thing to the second side as well. I'll trim off the excess zipper. Also, I'll trim off the excess fabric around the neckline. Then this opening around the armhole, I'm just going to turn this over to the right side. After turning this to the right face, you can use your scissors to push out the sharp edges at all the corners, just the way you see me doing. Then I'll also go ahead to turn the other piece to the right face using the armhole as well. So guys, this is what I have after I was done turning out the pieces to the right side. So this is what it looks like after I was done fixing the zipper. You can see how neat this looks. Now I'm going to take this over to the ironing table to iron it very well. And here is my back pieces. I'm just going to turn this over to the right side as well. Then I will use my scissors to push out all the sharp edges around the corner, just the way you see me doing. And I will take this over to the ironing table to iron these back pieces alongside with the front pieces. So guys, this is what I have after I was done ironing. You can see how neat this looks. And I also went ahead to iron the back pieces as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is to arrange the back pieces like this and make sure that all the edges are in place. I want to recut the armhole, that is reshape the armhole, so that we can be able to fix the zipper. So after arranging the edges properly, I'll use my scissors to cut a little bit out of the armhole. And I also did the same thing to the front pieces as well. I simply arranged the pieces together, then I just reshape the armhole. After reshaping the armhole, I'm just going to keep this aside while we work on the sleeve. For the sleeve, I just have this remaining pieces of fabric that I'll be using to draft the sleeve. So the first thing I did was to fold these pieces into two. Then after folding it into two, I went on to fold it again into four. After folding this into four, so the next thing I'm going to do is to fold the edge like this by 1 inch. This 1 inch that I'm folding up like this is to create the channel where we'll be passing the elastic casing on the shoulder of the sleeve. Now I'll place the body on top of the pieces like this so I can trace out the armhole on the sleeve. After cutting out the armhole, the next thing I'm going to do is to open up the sleeve like this. Then I will slit this open at the hemline. For the length of the sleeve, the total length of the sleeve that I am working with is 20 inches, okay? Now I will separate the two sleeves from each other, and I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'll fold this top like this to create the casing where I'll be passing my elastic casing, okay? Then I'll fold the length by 1/2 inch also. Let me go and do this and bring it so you see what we have. So guys, this is what I have after I was done sewing the top and also sewing the down, the hemline. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to cut out the required elastic for the shoulder and also for the hemline. Then I'm going to use my elastic casing to pass the shoulder and also at the hemline on the sleeve, okay? So what I did was to cut out the elastic casing for the shoulder, then I'll also cut the elastic casing for the one at the hemline. So guys, this is what I have after I was done fixing the elastic on the hemline of the sleeve, that is the length of the sleeve, and also on the shoulder of the sleeve. So the next thing that I'm going to do is to place the sleeve armhole on the top armhole, just the way you see me doing. So I will simply just watch what I am doing. I will simply place the armhole on the sleeve, on the armhole on the top, okay? Then I will use my pin to hold it together. If you don't have pin, you can simply place the two of them together together, then take it to your sewing machine and stitch it directly. This is what I have after I was done pinning this down. So now I'm going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch it down. So guys, this is what I have after I was done stitching the sleeve armhole to the armhole of the top. So the next thing I'm going to do is to arrange the sleeve together like this. Then I will use my pin to hold it together, and I'm going to hold this together to the length of the top, just the way you see me doing. Then I'm going to do the same thing to the other side as well. I'll simply arrange the sleeve because I haven't sewed the sleeve yet, so I'll arrange it together, then use my pin to hold it together all the way to the length of the top. So this is what it looks like after I was done pinning. So the next thing is for me to arrange this properly on my table. Then I will take the body measurements. So here on the bust line, I'm just going to divide my bust measurements by 2 and I'll mark it on both sides. Likewise here on the waistline, I'm going to divide the waist measurement that I'm working with by 2 and I'll mark it. Then on the length of this top, I'm going to divide the measurements that I marked when I was drafting the pattern by 2 and I'll mark it here at the length. After that, I'm going to use my freehand to connect all those points like this, and I'll also do the same thing to the other side as well. I'll simply use my freehand to connect all the top. Now I am going to head over to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew all the side that I have marked, including the sleeve. Okay, this is what I have after I was done sewing the sleeve all the way down to the length of the top. Let me turn this over to the right side so that you see what it looks like on the right side, and this is what it looks like on the right side. You can see how beautiful and how neat this turns out. The last thing that I'm going to do is to iron this top properly, and that is basically all. Thank you so much for watching this video to this point. If this video is helpful, please do not forget to give this video a thumbs up and also like and comment and also share this video. If you have any question concerning this tutorial, please leave your question in the comment section and I will respond to all of the questions. For now, bye guys, see you all in my next video.